If you grew up reading The Little House on the Prairie or watching the beloved television show, you probably think you know the Ingalls family inside and out. You know that hospital and Mary's blindness. You know about Mary's fierce pioneer spirit. But what if I told you the happiest family in American frontier was harboring a deep little secret, tucked away in the forgotten gap in the Laura Ingalls Wilder timeline? It was a tragedy so profound. It was so devastating. She spent time trying to erase her history. For over 15 months, the Ingalls family endured an apocalyptic onset of the plague, financial ruin, and the agonizing death of a child. And this child's name was completely scrubbed from the books she wrote. And his name was Charles Frederick Ingalls. Welcome back to Jodi Genealogy, where we dig deep beneath the surface of family trees to uncover the raw, unedited, and sometimes heartbreaking truth of the people who shaped our history today. We deep dive into true crime, cryptids, legends, all that fun stuff. Today we are breaking down the walls of the little house, the myth to explore the lost history of 1876, and the tragic and brief life of the baby boy the history books forgot. So grab your notes, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive into the archives. This is the lost year of Charles Frederick Ingalls, and why it was scrubbed from history. The year was 1875. It was supposed to be the golden era for Charles and Caroline Ingalls. They were nestled into their dugout along Plum Creek and Walnut Grove in Minnesota. The world felt full of promise. The soil was rich. Wheat crops were growing tall. And on November 1st of that year, Caroline gave birth to their fourth child. After 3 daughters, Charles, who they affectionately called Pa, finally had what every pioneer wanted and what he desperately prayed for. He wanted a biological son to carry on his name, and they called him Charles Frederick Ingalls. And they affectionately called him Freddie. For a brief moment, the dugout was filled with the sounds of newborn cries and a father's pride. 9-year-old Laura felt a tinge of jealousy, which normal kids probably do. In her original raw memoirs, she recalled looking back at her baby brother and kind of resenting the attention that he stole from the family. Pa would look at Freddie with stars in his eyes, imagining the day his boy would be big enough to help him clear the fields, hunt wild game, and hold the handles of the plow, working in the fields side by side. But the frontier was cruel, and the illusion of safety shattered almost immediately. The onset of living in a cloud. Before Freddie could even crawl, the sky over Walnut Grove turned pitch black. And it was in the middle of the summertime. It wasn't a storm that was looming over with rain, but a living, breathing cloud of billions of Rocky Mountain locusts. Now, I did also experience something like this when I was living in the Rocky Mountains, and it was the only time that birds actually flew in. And I seen birds. I seen birds follow them in. They came in, ate the vegetation, and left again with the birds. The grasshopper plague descended upon Plum Creek. It was a biblical fury. It's horrifying. They ate everything in sight. The wheat, the garden vegetables, and the grass. Even the clothes hanging on the laundry lines. Yeah, they are nasty. Within days, Pa's financial future was completely devoured. The Ingalls family went from a proud, self-sufficient, homesteading family to desolate refugees. Charles was forced to walk hundreds of miles eastward just to find a manual labor to buy flour for his family. The grinding poverty was settling over the dugout, a heavy, heavy fog, a shadow over the cradle, as stress and starvation and financial ruin gripped the family. Baby Freddie began to wither. The harsh conditions on the frontier, the infant's health was fragile at best, and he was lacking proper nutrition. He was lacking clean water and access to any medical care. Freddie felt severely ill. Historical records suggest the infant suffered from a devastating combination of malnutrition, severe dehydration, and often it was called infant cholera, or unable to thrive. His life was failing. The proud baby boy Pa had dreamed of grew smaller. His skin became pale, and his ribs started showing through his old gown. Oh, Ma and Pa watched helplessly, and Freddie's cries turned into weak whispers. I'm gonna cry. Desperate for a lifetime, Charles decided that they should leave the Plum Creek. They couldn't survive another winter there. I'm getting all choked up. They packed up their few belongings and started backtracking. It was an act of ultimate defeat for a pioneer heading toward a friend's hotel in Burr Oak, Iowa, and they stopped to rest at a farm with Peter and Eliza Ingalls, which is Charles' brother, in South Troy, Minnesota. It was there, it was hot, it was suffocating humidity. August of 1876 was the final blow, and it fell out hard. It was called One Terrible Day. Laura is just 9 years old and watched her parents fight an agonizing losing battle for their brother's life. And on August 27, 1876, at just 10 months old, Freddie's little body could take no more. Laura recorded the moment with a chilling, heartbreaking simplicity. One terrible day, he straightened out his little body and he was dead. The grief that shattered the family was absolute. I have a lump in my throat. This is so upsetting. Pa's dreams of a son died in that room. Ma's heart was torn open. Because they were mere travelers on someone else's land, Freddie could not be buried in the family plot. He was laid to rest in a hasty, unmarked grave on the local farm. And later in 1888, the Zumbo River would burst on its banks, completely flooding the area and washing away any physical trace of where that baby was. Today, his exact and final resting place remains entirely unknown. Is Freddie's little body still where Mom and Pa laid him to rest? or was he washed away into history? Now, Charles and Caroline decided to go into Burr Oak. They were grieving, they were traumatized, and carrying an empty cradle beside them in a horse-drawn wagon. The family pushed onward. They had to. They were trying to reach Burr Oak. If Plum Creek was a tragedy, Burr Oak was a living nightmare. They arrived to manage the Master's Hotel, which was less of a wholesome lodge for families and more of a seedy, dangerous frontier saloon. Now, you've all probably watched a Western or two in your life, so you can imagine. The family moved to Burr Oak to help their friends, the Stedmans, manage the Master's Hotel. And unlike the wholesome family home, this was a cramped public space where a mere 25 cents bought you a traveler's spot on a shared small straw mattress. It was dangerous, and the hotel featured a rowdy upstairs saloon. Ma and Pa were deeply devastated by the heavy drinking, the gambling, the dangerous drifters filtering through the building in and out, exposing young Mary and Laura and Carrie to a rough frontier life, and also grieving for poor Freddie. Now, for the next 15 months, the family lived in a state of grinding survival. Laura and Mary were forced to scrub the filth from transient strangers. They were forced to empty chamber pots and witness a rowdy, alcohol-fused, violent upstairs saloon. And when the business failed, they crammed into a freezing drafting room above a local grocery store. They were burning the twisted hay for heat because Pa and Ma could not afford to buy wood. They were also still engulfed in the grief of losing baby Freddie. This is when Caroline discovered she was pregnant again. But she was spending these months terrified with anxiety that the next child would meet the same fate, if you can only imagine. Oh, how awful. The hotel business quickly proved to be financially unstable for everyone. Desperate to get his daughters away from the saloon atmosphere, Pa took a local job at a feed store. Still grieving over Freddie, just months earlier, and she had gave birth to Grace Ingalls in Burr Oak of May 1877. The constant fear of losing another child while living in squalor, unstable conditions took a massive emotional toll on the whole family. By the summertime in 1877, Charles Ingalls had been completely broken by Iowa, and in the dead of night, unable to pay his debts or rent, Pa just packed up the wagon in total secrecy, and the family fled Burr Oak. I'm kind of glad to hear that, honestly. Under the cover of complete darkness, kind of smart, they were running away like thieves from a town that had taken their pride and taken their money and their sweet little baby boy. Soon after Christmas of 1876, the family moved out of the hotel. They crammed their family into Kimball's grocery store and spent a freezing cold winter there. They huddled all around the stove together. They burned their twisted hay to keep warm and huddled together. While these pages went blank when Laura Ingalls Wilder sat down to write her legacy and her legendary children's books during the Great Depression, she was writing an idealized and uplifting myth of the American spirit. The publishers wanted a cohesive story of a family moving triumphantly westward, not a depressing reality of a family retreating. To include Freddie meant introducing the death of Freddie, of starvation, saloon culture, and the escape of debtors to a young audience. It didn't seem quite right. So Laura made a conscious, agonizing decision. She took her pen and drew a line through the year of 1876. She skipped straight over to Walnut Grove and the shores of Silver Lake, effectively erasing her poor little brother Freddie from existence to protect the wholesome legacy of the Little House books. But beneath the fiction lies a heavy, heavy truth. A little boy lived, a family was broken, and the prairie was shaped by the shadows and secrets that they left behind. Now, it's wild to think how much our history is intentionally left on the cutting room floor. Laura Ingalls Wilder gave us a beautiful window into the pioneer spirit, but it's these dark and unedited corners, like the short life of baby Freddie, where you find the true and raw human cost of settling on the frontier back in the day. If you want to look at the records yourself, the Masters Hotel in Burr Oak actually still stands today as a museum, keeping the memory of that lost year alive. I put the links in the archives down in the description box below. Before you go, I want to hear from you. What do you think? Do you think Laura made the right choice by leaving Freddie out of the books to protect her young readers? Do you wish she should have shared the full story? Let me know your thoughts in your comments. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, share it with your fellow history buffs, and subscribe to Jodi Genealogy so you'll never miss those deep dives into the secrets, into the past. Until next time, keep digging up your roots and stay curious and love one another. Bye everybody.